Ever wonder why you do the things you do, or feel the way you feel, even when none of it really makes sense? Like, maybe you made a decision that seemed totally irrational, or felt an emotion that just popped up out of nowhere. What if I told you there's more going on beneath the surface? Hidden forces quietly steering your thoughts, choices, and even your future, all without you noticing. This video isn't just about the word influence, it's about pulling back the curtain on the invisible strings pulling at your life every day. Are you ready to see what's really behind your decisions? Because once you do, nothing will look quite the same. The silent architects of our reality. Have you ever felt like you're just a player in a game, but the rules are totally unclear? Like you're constantly reacting to things but don't know why? That's exactly what I want to talk about. There are forces all around us, subtle and unseen, that shape everything we think, say, and do. We don't usually notice because they work behind the scenes, almost like silent architects building the reality we live in. Here's the thing. These influences are absolutely everywhere. They sneak into our conversations, our decisions, the products we buy, even the beliefs we hold. They set the stage for how we process information and react emotionally often, before we have a chance to consciously weigh in. You might think, is this some conspiracy stuff? Nope, it's actually backed by tons of psychological research. These patterns have been studied for decades because understanding them helps us navigate the world smarter. But here's the kicker. Most people aren't even aware these hidden forces exist. What I want to do is take you on a mind-bending journey to uncover these invisible mechanisms. By the end of this video, you'll have a new lens for seeing your world, and importantly, how to reclaim control over your choices instead of just being pulled along. So, let's start with one of the most powerful invisible influences you encounter every single day: anchoring bias, the first impressions lasting. Grip him. Imagine you're out shopping for a car. The salesperson tells you the price is $30,000. Instantly, that number becomes your mental anchor, even if you later find out similar cars go for less, or you realize that $30,000 is way overpriced. Your brain holds. It affects your judgment and limits how much you're willing to pay. This is anchoring bias in action. Anchoring bias means the very first piece of information we get, even if it's irrelevant or arbitrary, sets a benchmark that affects every decision after. It's like our mind latches onto that number and has trouble letting go. This phenomenon isn't limited to car sales. Think about salary negotiations. When the first figure gets thrown on the table, it heavily shapes the final agreement. Or consider your first impression of someone you meet. That initial snapshot can stick with you, framing all future interactions. Why does this happen? Our brains love shortcuts. Anchoring is a mental shortcut that helps us process complex info quickly, but it's also a trap. It narrows our perspective and can keep us locked into flawed assumptions without us even realizing. So, how do you break free from this trap? First, awareness is key. Just knowing anchoring bias exists gets you partway there. Then, deliberately slow down your decision-making process when faced with initial information. Question the relevance and source of that first number or impression. Get multiple points of reference before settling on a conclusion. And if you're negotiating, don't be afraid to throw out the anchor or resist one someone else drops. Remember, the first number you hear isn't a law, it's just a starting point. Social proof and herd mentality. The power of the crowd. Here's another invisible force that's absolutely massive. Social proof, or what you might call herd mentality. Humans are wired to look at what everyone else is doing and follow suit. It's an evolutionary survival strategy. Sticking with the group kept us safe from predators. But in today's world, this instinct shows up in tons of interesting ways. Think about viral trends. Why do some dances or challenges blow up overnight? Because once a certain number of people jump on board, others follow, almost automatically. Or, consider online reviews. Ever found yourself buying something just because it had hundreds of positive ratings? That's social proof guiding you. Even political movements or public opinion swings are influenced by this phenomenon. People look around to gauge what's normal or socially accepted, then adjust their behavior to fit in. Social proof can be helpful. Collective wisdom often catches things a single person might miss, but it can also lead to dangerous groupthink, where people stop critically thinking and follow the crowd blindly, even toward harmful decisions. The challenge is recognizing when you're being influenced by the crowd and when it's time to step outside that bubble. Ask yourself, Are you choosing something because it's genuinely right for you, or just because everyone else is doing it? Learning to balance your own judgment against social pressure is crucial for making authentic, confident choices. The illusion of control, beyond our conscious reach so far. We've seen how anchoring bias and social proof quietly steer our decisions and feelings. But there's another invisible force that's even more fascinating and powerful: the illusion of control. Have you ever felt like you were in the driver's seat, making things happen exactly as you planned? Maybe you were convinced a certain routine or mantra would guarantee success or happiness. But if we step back and look closer, a lot of times that sense of control is just an illusion. This illusion of control is when you overestimate how much influence you actually have over events, especially random or unpredictable ones. It's like believing you can will the dice to land a certain way, or that your lucky socks really affect the outcome of a game. Why do we do this? Because our brains hate uncertainty. Believing we're in control, even when we're not, helps reduce anxiety and makes us feel safer. The problem is, it can also blind us. It tricks us into taking unnecessary risks or ignoring important signals that things are out of our hands. One classic example is gambling. Studies show people who feel more control over their bets tend to gamble longer and lose more money. They think their choices matter way more than they do. But even outside casinos, the illusion of control shows up everywhere. In business decisions, relationships, health choices, we can fall into the trap of thinking we're shaping outcomes perfectly, while missing how much randomness and external factors actually play a role. How these invisible influences into where things get really interesting. Anchoring bias, social proof, the illusion of control. These aren't just separate tricks our minds play on us. They weave together like threads in a huge, invisible tapestry, shaping what we think is reality. The first impression you cling to anchoring might come from the crowd's opinion, social proof, which then feeds into your confidence that you're on the right path, illusion of control. This creates a powerful feedback loop, locking you into certain decisions or beliefs without you realizing it. It's like living inside a carefully crafted story, one you didn't write, but one that feels unmistakably real. And the more this story aligns with your expectations and emotions, the harder it is to step outside and question it. Taking back control. Awareness is the first step now. Here's the good news. Recognizing these hidden forces puts you back in the driver's seat. Once you know the game, you can start playing it differently. Saint P1. Develop awareness. Begin noticing when your gut reactions might be anchored to a first impression, or when your choices are shaped by what everyone else seems to be doing. Pay attention when you feel overly confident about something that might actually be out of your control. Step 2 is questioning those instincts. Ask yourself, is this really my choice, or am I just following the crowd? Am I holding on to an idea simply because it was the first thing I heard? How much control do I really have here? Practical ways to build resilience against manipulation here are some concrete strategies to get stronger at resisting unconscious influence. Slow down your decisions when you catch yourself reacting on autopilot. Pause. Taking even a few extra seconds to reflect can help you step outside automatic biases. Seek diverse perspectives. Surround yourself with different viewpoints. This breaks echo chambers and helps you see when social proof is pushing you. Use data wisely. Instead of relying on the first piece of data you get, research more and compare, especially for big decisions like buying, investing, or career moves. Practice mindfulness. Being aware of your emotions as they arise helps catch moments when you're feeling irrationally confident or anxious. Embrace uncertainty. Accept that you can't control everything. This mindset reduces the urge to cling to illusions of control and opens your mind to adaptability. What happens when you take control? It's not about being perfect or avoiding influence entirely. That's impossible. Instead, it's about becoming an active participant in your own story, rather than a passive actor. When you reclaim control, your choices become more thoughtful, nuanced, and truly aligned with your values. You'll find yourself less stressed by uncertainty because you understand its nature better. You'll be able to spot manipulation from marketers, politicians, and even friends or colleagues who might push you in directions that don't serve you. Most importantly, you'll discover a freer, more authentic way of living, one where you're in charge of your life's script. Asterisk. There you have it, a deeper dive into the unseen forces at play and how you can start to master them instead of being mastered by them. Cognitive biases, the mental shortcuts that trip us up by now. You're starting to see these hidden forces shaping our reality aren't random. They're mental patterns deeply wired in our brains. We call these patterns cognitive biases, and they act like shortcuts to help us make quick decisions. The problem, sometimes these shortcuts lead us astray. Our minds are incredible but also imperfect. They try to save time and energy by jumping to conclusions, but that can mean missing important details or misinterpreting reality. Let's look at some of the most common cognitive biases that influence your daily life, often without you realizing it. Confirmation bias. Seeing what we want to see. Confirmation bias is the tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms our existing beliefs or opinions. Think about the last time you got into a debate online. How often do people just gather facts that support their side and dismiss the rest? That's confirmation bias in full effect. It's comforting for our brains to stick to what we already believe because it reduces mental discomfort. But it's also a big obstacle if you want to grow or make better decisions. For example, if you believe a product is amazing, you'll probably notice glowing reviews and ignore complaints. Or if you have a political stance, you might only read news that backs it up, creating a bubble that's hard to break out of. Availability heuristic, the power of what's fresh in your mind, ever made. A judgment based on the first example or story that popped into your head. Like you might overestimate how dangerous plane crashes are just because you recently saw a news story about one. That's the availability heuristic. We judge likelihood or importance based on how isolated examples come to mind. This bias can lead us to misread reality. Advertising campaigns, for example, rely on this by flooding you with certain images or slogans, making those ideas the default in your thinking. Loss aversion, why we fear losing more than we value. Gaining here is a fascinating quirk of the human brain. Losing something feels way worse than gaining the same thing feels good. This is loss aversion. It explains why many people hold on to bad investments hoping they'll bounce back, because selling now would make the loss real. Or why you might resist change, even when the potential benefits are huge, because the fear of losing what you have feels more intense. This bias keeps us stuck sometimes, afraid to take risks that could actually improve our lives. How these biases shape your everyday choices. All these mental shortcuts layer on top of each other and influence what headlines grab your attention, how you judge people and situations, even what products you buy. Advertisers, politicians, and media companies know about these biases and use them strategically. They design messages that hit your cognitive hot buttons, triggering fears, desires, and automatic reactions. That's why it's so important to understand these mental patterns. When you do, you can step back and question your initial gut reactions. You can pause before sharing sensational news or before making a snap decision online. Strategies to outsmart your own brain. Want to reduce the impact of these biases? Here are some practical tips. Seek out opposing views. Consciously expose yourself to opinions and information that challenge your perspective. It's uncomfortable but necessary for balance. Slow down decision-making. Give yourself time before making big choices. Reflect on what information you're ignoring and what biases might be at play. Ask why repeatedly. When you find yourself reacting strongly, ask why. What's underlying that reaction? Is it evidence or emotion driving you? Write it down. When debating or deciding, jot down pros and cons and check if you're favoring information that supports your existing view. Practice intellectual humility. Accept that you don't know everything and you might be wrong sometimes. This opens your mind to learn and adapt. The role of emotions in decision-making. Not just logic that gets twisted by these biases. Emotions play a huge role to. Our feelings can both cloud judgment and provide valuable insight. The key is learning how to recognize when emotions are helping you understand something important and when they're pulling you off course. For example, fear can protect you from danger, but it can also paralyze you or push you toward irrational choices. Excitement can motivate you to take action, but can also blind you to risks. By becoming more aware of your emotional states and how they interact with your cognitive biases, you can make decisions that are more balanced and grounded. The power of reflection and self-awareness. The takeaway. Gaining awareness of these biases and hidden influences is the first step, and it's a powerful one. But it's reflection and ongoing self-awareness that really build resilience. That means regularly checking in with yourself, questioning your assumptions, and being willing to adjust your thinking. It might feel uncomfortable to admit you've been unknowingly led by invisible forces, but that awareness is freedom, puts you in control of your mind rather than letting it control you. Building critical thinking, your best defense against invisible influence at this point. You've seen just how many hidden forces are guiding your thoughts and decisions. It can feel overwhelming, like you're constantly being pulled in directions you didn't choose. But here's the truth, you're not powerless. In fact, you have some of the strongest tools right in your mind to push back against these influences. One of the most powerful tools is critical thinking. This isn't just a fancy term, it's a skill, a mindset, and a practice that can transform how you process information and make choices. Critical thinking means questioning information instead of accepting it at face value. It means looking for evidence, spotting assumptions, and evaluating arguments before jumping to conclusions. I'm going to break down some simple, practical ways to build this muscle and make it a natural part of your daily life. Question everything. The first step is to develop a habit of curiosity and skepticism. When you come across any claim, whether it's a news headline, social media post, or advice from a friend, ask yourself, who is saying this? What's their goal or motivation? What evidence supports this claim? Is there a perspective or detail missing? Nothing should be sacred or unquestioned, especially info that triggers strong emotions. Separate facts from opinions. It's easy to confuse facts and opinions, especially in today's fast-moving media landscape. Facts are verifiable, can be checked and confirmed. Opinions are personal beliefs and interpretations. Train your mind to pause and identify which is which. Don't let opinions masquerade as facts, because those are the ones most often used to manipulate. Recognize logical fallacies. Logical fallacies are common errors in reasoning that sound convincing but don't hold up under scrutiny. Examples include strawman fallacy, misrepresenting someone's argument to make it easier to attack; false dilemma, presenting only two options when more exist; ad hominem, attacking the person instead of the argument. Knowing these can help you spot weak arguments in conversations, media, or even your own thinking. Practice active listening and reading. Whether you're talking with someone or consuming media, active engagement makes a big difference. Instead of passively absorbing what's said or shown, really listen or read with intent. Look for underlying assumptions, emotional hooks, and missing information. It helps prevent automatic acceptance of ideas and gives you time to formulate your own well-rounded views. Embrace nuance and complexity. The world isn't black and white, and critical thinking thrives on embracing complexity. Avoid jumping to simplistic conclusions or labels. Instead, try to understand multiple sides of an issue and appreciate uncertainty. This mindset naturally frees you from being so easily swayed by oversimplified messages or fear-based tactics. How to apply critical thinking to influence around you. Imagine scrolling through your social feed. You see a viral post making a big claim or pushing a trendy product. Instead of reactions like, wow, everyone's talking about this, or I need to try that, you shift into a critical thinking mode. Who benefits if people believe this? What data backs this up? Is it credible? How does this align or conflict with what I already know? Should I pause before sharing or acting on it? This approach builds a healthy boundary between you and the crowd mentality, helping you make choices aligned with your true preferences, not just viral popularity. The role of media literacy in the age of information overload. In today's digital age, media literacy is a part of critical thinking you can't ignore. With so much content coming at you from every angle, from ads to fake news, understanding how media works is vital. Media literacy means being able to identify bias and agenda in news sources and entertainment. Spot misinformation or manipulated images and videos. Evaluate the credibility of sources. Understand how algorithms on social platforms shape what you see. When you get better at this, you take back control over what information you let into your mind and how you interpret it. Tools and habits to foster lifelong critical thinking. Here are some practical habits to make critical thinking part of your daily routine. Read broadly. Don't just stick to news or ideas that align with your views. Pick books, articles, and podcasts with diverse perspectives. Write it down. Jot notes or journal about new info you encounter. Writing helps clarify your thoughts and spot gaps. Discuss ideas. Talk with people who think differently. Respectful debate can sharpen your reasoning. Ask what if. Challenge assumptions by imagining alternate explanations or outcomes. Reflect regularly. Take time to review your decisions and beliefs. Were they influenced by bias? Could you improve? Why this matters more than ever in a world where hidden influences lurk in everyday conversations, media, and even our own minds. Being able to think critically is a game changer. It protects you from being manipulated, empowers you to make smarter decisions, and helps you lead a life that feels truly your own. Most importantly, it builds mental freedom, breaking the invisible strings that pull at you and letting you cut your own path. Seeing the invisible strings, final thoughts. We've taken a deep dive into the hidden forces shaping your thoughts, feelings, and choices, from anchoring bias to social proof, the illusion of control, and all those sneaky cognitive biases that trip us up every day. These invisible strings often run so deep that we don't even realize we're being pulled. But here's the ultimate truth. Once you see the strings, you have the power to cut them. This isn't about paranoia or refusing all influence. That's impossible. Influence is part of being human, but it's about becoming aware of those influences, understanding them, and choosing which ones you let guide you. It's about moving from being manipulated to being intentional, the freedom of autonomy. In a world full of influence, think about the freedom that comes from realizing you don't have to mindlessly follow the crowd or cling to your first impressions. When you develop awareness and critical thinking, you reclaim your autonomy. You become the author of your own story, not just another character in someone else's. This kind of freedom feels incredible. It's a mental clarity that lets you make decisions based on your true values, not just impulse or pressure. It's a peace of mind that prepares you for the unexpected twists life throws your way. A call to action. Your mind matters. So here's my challenge to you. Take this knowledge seriously. Watch your own thoughts and reactions. Challenge your assumptions regularly. Question the truths you've accepted without proof. Don't just consume information, analyze it. Don't just accept popular opinion, examine it. Don't just react, reflect. This kind of mental discipline is how you protect yourself, grow continually, and build a more authentic life. What's next? Make this a lifelong practice. Awareness and critical thinking aren't just skills you flip on for a video or test and then forget. They're habits, lifelong practices. The more you use them, the sharper your mental toolkit becomes, and the harder it is for those invisible strings to control you. Remember, the world is constantly changing, and new influences pop up all the time. Staying vigilant, curious, and humble keeps you prepared. Thank you for joining this journey. If you found this video eye-opening, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit. We all live in this web of invisible influence together, and spreading awareness is one of the best ways to help each other. Also, if you have experiences or questions about these influences in your life, drop them in the comments. I love hearing your stories and reflections. Final thought. At the end of the day, understanding the invisible forces shaping your choices is not about controlling everything around you. It's about taking responsibility for your own mind, and that's the greatest power of all. Thanks for watching and taking this journey beyond the surface into what really drives us. Until next time, stay curious, stay thoughtful, and keep taking back your mind.